Now I'm going to show you how to make ruffles, just like this. It's super, super easy. It just revolves one single stitch. Here's how. I've got a strip of fabric here, and I've got a sewing machine. What we're going to do is use our basting stitch. What's a basting stitch? Well, that is when your stitch is set to the highest stitch length. On my machine, that's a 4. Might be more on yours. So we're going to be sewing on the 4, the basting stitch, the highest stitch you can reach. Now to make this cool ruffle that I've made, I just randomly sewed in the middle of my fabric. So I'm just going to do that same thing. And the trick to the basting stitch is also, I know you've heard me say it 100 times, make sure you backstitch, but don't. Not for the basting stitch. We never want to backstitch. We just want to run a nice straight line down the length of our fabric. And when we take our fabric out, we don't want to cut the thread super close. We want to leave some extra room. So I'm just going to cut my thread there. And now let me show you the cool thing. What we're going to do is gather our fabric. You do that by holding on to one of your 2 threads, because when you stitch, it's a top and a bottom thread. So you want to just grab one, ignore the other. You just want to slowly pull it. And keep that thread in one hand, and as you notice, as you pull your fabric, it's just very naturally gathering. We're going to gather the whole thing. We can also work our way from the other side. How does it look? Cool. And that, my friends, is how you make ruffles and gathers. When it comes to using it for a project, it's always best to make sure it's even, and then you just can sew directly over it, and once you stitch it again, that'll stay in place. I'm just making sure it's nice and even. The most important thing to remember here is just you never want to lose that thread. You need it to stay out where you can get to it, or else it's not going to be able to gather anymore and you might have to restitch it. Now that you know that technique, we are ready to make our very final project. I'll see you there. I'm going to show you how to make this fabulous curtain. I call it the flamenco ombre curtain. I was inspired by a design I saw at Anthropology, and I wanted to try to figure out how to make it myself. I think it turned out great.